Well, the week has really flown. We're here on a Thursday morning already, which means it's time to talk law on Radio 97. Our resident lawyer, Despina Priala from boutique law firm Priala Legal in One Bay. With us every Thursday, she brings her legal expertise, providing some general advice on the latest of hot topics. And today, very hot topics indeed. She has experience spanning more than 25 years in the area of property and commercial law. She also prepares wills as part of estate planning and litigation. With us today, right now. Hi, Despina.
Good morning, Wayne. Good morning, Brooke.
Good morning, Despina. Good morning, Wayne. So this morning, this one's for our Gold Coast friends. It's a very juicy article just came out in the Gold Coast Bulletin in regards to rates and rate payers. So Mayor Tom Tate, according to the Gold Coast Bulletin, is launching an urgent investigation. Despina, what's going on?
Yes, I read the story and I thought, oh, this is a good topic, I think, for the show. Well, certainly people would be aware of this, and if they're not, they should be. And we want to talk about what is all this fuss about? Why is he launching, supposedly, this urgent investigation? So what I have read is that there's been a big uproar, and I don't know how this came about, but apparently people have discovered on the Gold Coast, we're talking about that they have been paying supposedly more rates than what they should have been paying in the past. And nobody likes to pay more than what they should because we all pay our taxes and we all, most of us do all the right things and pay what we're supposed to pay. But when you get told, oh, I think you've been paying more, then that leaves sort of a nasty taste in your mouth. And now apparently this investigation is happening. So I thought, let's talk about this, and maybe people are going to be listening, well, maybe that's me, and maybe I should be checking out things in relation to my property, my rates.
Well, some of the ratepayers apparently have been paying as much as up to 40% more than they should. So obviously this will affect quite a lot of people and quite a deal of money involved too.
That's right. So let's go back to some basics because I think this is where people have potentially got caught out. So we don't know all the ins and outs yet. So we don't want to start blaming people or saying positive things that we don't know yet. But in essence, I know, and a lot of people who deal with property know, that there are different rating categories for different property. Now, of course, the obvious ones are, is it a residential property? Is it a commercial property? Is it an industrial property? Is it a rural property? So we all know that they're obviously different. But I think here, if I can say what the problem has been or what is the problem that's being investigated, is that you have a residential property, but that property is either an owner-occupier property or it's a rented property. So it's classed as an investment property, but it's still residential. And they are classed under two different categories, as I understand. So in essence, if you own a residential property, but you have bought it as an investment, or you might have lived in it, say, for a year or two or three, then you rent it out, the categories change. So the idea, I believe, being, of course, council will charge more to an owner who owns a residential property that's actually rented out, so classed as an investment, as opposed to the property that you live in and occupy as your residence. Okay, so that's where I think this problem has come about. And you can, I suppose, foresee what I'm going to say next, and that is, if you buy a property that was rented and you take it over, right, and it's in this higher category of rates, when you decide to go and live in that property as your own residence, then maybe it didn't change and the rating category didn't change. So then you're paying more rates than what you should have because you started to occupy it as your residence. So then you should be in a lower category.
Yeah. And obviously this information isn't too clear on these rates bills. Mayor Tom Tate told the Gold Coast Bulletin, I'd say to anyone who has just bought a property, check your rate. Notice that might have been an investment property before and now you've become a principal resident. It's a different thing. So this is the issue. People are thinking that they're paying rates for, oh, residential property. Yep, there it is. I'll send off my money. But it may be something completely different.
Exactly. So this is what I wanted to talk about. Now, I went to my own rates because before I wanted to get on the show and talk about this, I thought, well, let's go to my own situation and see exactly what is disclosed again on the rates notice, because we only get it twice a year on the Gold Coast. And I don't remember everything that's disclosed on the rates notice. So I went to my own rates notice that I got recently, of course, and had a look. Now, we're listed as under a particular category, which is a residential category. And I know what that means, but a lot of people may not know what it means, whether it's a category 1A or a differential residential category. So the point being that when you go to the rates notice, it just says, okay, under general rate on page 3, it gives you your category. Now, it doesn't tell you what that means. Meaning, if I'm in a 1A residential, what does that mean? Am I paying a lower amount of rates? Am I paying a higher amount of rates? There's no disclosure at all. So it's all very well for the council to say, well, if you don't like your rating, go and lodge an objection. But by the way, you can only lodge it within 30 days of getting the notice or by the due date shown on your rates notice. Well, that for a lot of people, that's come and gone for this 6 months, because I know my rates notice was due 25th of August. So we're now in September. So if I wanted to object, which I don't, I've already lost that opportunity anyway. And a lot of people out there are now potentially going to have to wait till January next year to be able to lodge an objection, unless, of course, there's a bit of an uproar and there's some sort of class action mounted against council.
And is that possible?
Yeah.
Well, potentially, if there's enough people. If Tom Tate's already ordering an investigation, surely there's going to be some basis for that, if he's doing it. So the other thing I wanted to raise is, I think, from my own personal view, looking at what I've got, I don't think that council has disclosed this properly to homeowners, and I think there is I think a reasonable basis to at least inquire and make council uncomfortable with the questions that have to be asked, such as, tell me where do you disclose to me that there is a higher amount of rates I have to pay if my property is investment property as opposed to an owner occupier? Where does it tell me that? Because from what I've seen, it doesn't actually disclose those basic details. Yes, it discloses different rating categories. Yes, it says your category could be this or could be this, but it doesn't actually say, well, if you're in this category, it's higher than another category. It doesn't actually tell you that.
Yeah, like you're paying X% more than residential if you're in a different category. Like there could be some sort of chart or something that could just clarify it for people and avoid the whole situation.
That's right. So if someone gets a rates notice, happens to look on page 3 and might see instead of 1A residential, they might go, oh, it's another category, but residential. It's a differential residential. They might go, oh yeah, I'm in a residence.
Yeah.
They don't think anything of it. But the reality is that they might be paying a higher amount of rates than what they should have, because, as I said before, they might have bought an investment property, the tenants left 6 months later after they've become the owner, then they actually go and occupy it. So they're actually living in there as their residence. It's not an investment property anymore, and they don't know the difference with the rating categories, as in, I'm paying more now than what I was before, or I should be paying less than what I was paying before, because my status in using this property has changed, in that I'm living in it now, but I'm not renting it out. And that's where I think they failed to disclose to people quite clearly about the difference in the ratings.
Now, Despina, if you wanted to go looking for this information, okay, I know you've said in the past some of the information at various, well, certainly state government level and federal government level, you've got to drill down and drill down and drill down through websites to actually find the bit of information you want. If you were looking for this information, say, for example, through the council website, is it there? Is it available if you looked hard enough?
Okay, so council will, if they're listening, will probably say, oh, look, when we send a rates notice out, we send a little pamphlet called rating category statement, all right, for each financial year. And they do. But when I had a look at the rating category statement, which is online, right, but you've probably got to Google it and find it on council's website, there is no disclosure in this document to explain to people, if you own a residential property, for example, and it's an investment property, then your category is higher, right? Than if you own or occupy. It just lists all the different categories. It doesn't actually disclose the reality that you're paying more for certain properties and paying less for others. It doesn't actually explain that. And it says, oh, yes, if you don't like your category, go and lodge an objection. But how are you going to know to lodge an objection if you don't understand the different rating categories and how it affects you personally.
Yeah, and you have a 4-page document there for anyone who can't see, and obviously I can see Desi on the screen there. So you have a 4-page document in front of you and then a 12-page document in front of you.
Well, that's your rating category that you get,
Yeah.
and it comes up in a little pamphlet, and it's a
Yeah.
few pages long, and basically it looks like something that nobody would read. To be honest,
Well, there
you
go.
sort of like toss it out because there's no actual heading. For example, do you want to lodge an objection? Check your rating category. You know, there's no actual headline, or it's not a red flag to people. It's not really clearly disclosed. I think it should be in the future, and I think council should look at that.
Yeah, there you go. Thank you so much, Despina. And coming up next, High Court case has made their decision finally about the Google defamation case. More details coming up next on Talking Law. Stay tuned.